So now that we have all of our functions, we're going to need to create an index.html file to run them out of. So everyone, I want you to touch an index.html file next to your datastructures.js. And as soon as you've touched that file, open it up. Here, I'll make it big so you can see. And add your generic HTML boilerplate. Doc type HTML, head, HTML. Head, body. Cool? Then let's put a title in here that says Donut app. And in the body, we will create a list. We'll say students. Or let's just say donut app. Donut line app. And then we're going to create some new HTML elements. If you haven't seen these before, they're great. They're called buttons. And a button will say add student, button, remove student from line, add student to line, or from, or give student donut, I think would be a better way to say this. Give student donut. Let's make another button. Let's say let someone cut. And then say take student off back of line. So all it is a header. That's a donut line app. And then we have 4 buttons. Each of those buttons, we want to do something. But as of right now, they don't do anything. So if we were to preview this app, right now if I were to preview this, and I'm going to put all this in Slack real quick. But if I were to preview this, it should look like, beautiful. Here's 4 buttons. Everyone see those buttons? Cool. If I click them, nothing happens. That's because we haven't told them to do anything yet. So I'm going to paste this code into Slack really quickly. Here's the HTML. And create snippet. Cool. So back in my app, I now need a way to take my JavaScript and to make sure whenever I click one of these buttons, it runs my JavaScript. Here's how you do that. This is where things get cool. When you start hooking up your front end to your JavaScript logic, this is the beginning of how you build front-end apps. So down at the bottom, I'm going to create a script file, and I'm going to give it a source, and that src, that source, is going to be, you probably can't see that as well. Nope. And that source is going to be the name of my JavaScript file, which is datastructures.js. What this allows me to do is, in my buttons, I can include any of the functions. Whenever I click that button, I want it to run the function. Cool? So in this button, if I need to add a student to the line, I would say onClick equals, and I would use these little squiggly brackets again. And then I can choose any of the functions to put in there. And so as soon as someone clicks this button, it'll run that function. This is event-based JavaScript. It's the most fun way, I think, to write JavaScript. Is like when I build apps, like with my students, like the intro apps, I always do it like this. Now, as you get to more complex stuff, you might change the way you do this to make it a little more structured. But this is the easiest one. If I want to add a student to the line, what was the name of that function again? Anyone remember? Let's look at our data structures. Oops. What's it? Student back. So whenever we do that, we want to run the student back function. Student back. But the student back function takes 2 arguments. How are we going to get the student's name to add to the line? This is where things get interesting. Also, since we updated this to have taken an array now, instead of just automatically put the KWK students in there, we have to actually explicitly tell it that the first array we want to pass in is the KWK students. Like this. Cool? And I'm actually going to update this a little bit so that we can determine on the fly who to add to our list. You ready? This is a new JavaScript function you have not seen before. You might have seen it in other languages, but it's really easy in JavaScript. So back in my datastructures.js file, I'm going to get rid of that student name variable, and I'm going to say var student name equals prompt. What's the name of the student? Now prompt, what prompt does is it pulls up a prompt box. And inside it you can enter in whatever you want. And then it stores that value right here. So after it does that, I'm going to show you, I'm going to console.log student name. Like so. Cool? I'm going to get rid of these semicolons because they make me sad. Don't be mad at me. I'm sorry, Melanie. I apologize. Don't hate me forever. But I'm going to say view, wrap line, so you can see this easier. So there you go. That's my new function. So it takes in an array, and then it prompts the user to say, hey, what's the name of the student? And then whenever you enter in, it pushes that student name to the end of the line. Cool, huh? That makes things easier. So let's actually, you want to try it? Or should I paste it into Slack first? Slack? Okay. Let me paste it into Slack so everyone can have it working. Here's all the HTML. I will put it in Slack. It is, but I will put it in again. Cool? Okay, Slack. You just not want to work? Oh, there we go. Create snippet. There's the HTML. Let me throw the datastructures.js. Yes. Absolutely. So what happened here, great question, by the way. What happened here is we changed this function so that instead of automatically selecting the KWK array, it selects any array we want. So maybe we want to start with an empty line instead of a list of just our students. We're going to start with an empty line and we want to push names into that continuously. This allows us to pass in any array value that we want and then automatically add a student to the end of it, like this, by first prompting the user to enter in a value and then console.logging it and pushing it to the end of the array. Does that make sense? Did I clear that up a little bit at least? I think it'll make more sense if you actually see it happen. Okay? So I'm going to take this line right here and I'm just going to say, I'm just going to push the array and then I'm going to console.log the array so you can see what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to press save, and then inside my index.html, my preview, I'm going to pop it into a new screen, and we're going to take a look at the console as I click this button. So in the console, I want to click the Add Student to Line button. You ready? When I click it, what should it do? It should prompt me to enter in a student name. Let's see if it does. What's the name of the student? Shakira. Okay. And boom, it gives me back Shakira, and it also gives me the array. Let's take a look at that array. At the 0th index is Maya, Emma, Allison, Charity, Kiana, Zoe, Sophia, Hannah, Celine, JD, Goldie, Isabella, Ella, Grace, Katrina, Alexis, Catherine, Tally, Victoria, Cynthia, Shakira. Did it work? Heck yeah, it did. So now all of a sudden, we have an app that can actually do some things for us. It can store all the people in a list. We can add people to the end of the list. And we've already written the functions What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to have you guys wire it up to the front end exactly the same way we did here. So see how we did this with the onClick attribute for the button? I want you to do that for the rest of these buttons and make sure it works. And I want you to console.log the results so you can keep track of what's going on. Does that make sense? So right now, once to reiterate, what we're doing is we're going into each button and we're giving each button an onClick attribute. And then in each of those onClick attributes, we're going to add some stuff in here, run the correct functions to make these buttons do what we want them to do. Cool? Yeah, question. I just want you to console.log the array each time so you can see what the line is every time you run a function. Does that make sense? Cool, so give it a shot, try it out, and then as soon as we're done, let's eat donuts. Sound good? No one's listening to me anymore. They're like, gotta get this done. All right, awesome. I'll put these videos up on YouTube right now so you have them as well.